Hi guys, I want to jump on here to share an important message that we recorded last week during one of our classes. So I run web classes every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday I run web classes on marketing, and Thursday I run web classes on mindset. And on one of these classes on Thursday, we had a really great debate about the role of coaching today and the importance of coaching today, especially in a world that is lacking certainty. There's so much uncertainty around the world. So what I want to do is I want to share the video that we recorded during the web class with you. It's about 10 minutes long, and I know that you're going to get value from this if you're concerned about uncertainty, or if you're working with clients who've got a lot of uncertainty at the moment. So we touched on a lot of different things in this video. We talk about masks and the pandemic. We talk about the role of governments. We talk about control. We talk about freedom. Lots of really, really great stuff. So I hope you really enjoyed this. If you do enjoy it, please do let me know in the comments below. We're moving into the greatest level of uncertainty in the last 100 years. That's a fact, because all of the rule books have been thrown out the window. And if you want to see the greatest example of that, just look at the airline industry. Okay, the airline industry has got this. I saw an amazing documentary on airline industry the other day. I think it's actually on YouTube. It's a short documentary, and what they're talking about is that every single airline in the world has been fully booked or almost fully booked for the last 5 to 10 years. And whenever you book your flight, there's always seats available. And how they do that is because they can predict human behavior, right? And because they can predict human behavior, they know that business people will not fly at certain times of the year, and holidayers were more likely to fly if there's cheaper flights. And they can match all this using machine learning and all this sort of algorithms to give you exactly the price that you're willing to pay throughout the year, so they always have 80 to 90% of their seats booked. Ryanair has something like a 97% capacity, as in they fill 97% of their seats on every flight on average, which is like crazy when you think about it. Now what's happened, because of lockdown, none of the rules work anymore, because the rules are based on statistics from the past. Okay, there is no statistics about how people come out of a pandemic, because the last time we had a pandemic was 100 years ago. It was 1913, 1970, something like that. Okay, so we don't have any numbers, which means now the airlines are literally throwing everything out the window, and they're actually going back to manually pricing their seats. And if you fly nowadays, you'll find that probably 40 to 60% of the seats are empty in flight, because they can't plan around it. They don't have the algorithms, they don't have the maths, they don't have the AI to work out the numbers, because no one knows what's happening. And that's an example of one rule book's gone out the window. But the same is true everywhere. All the rule books are gone out the window, which means we're at the greatest level of uncertainty in the history of the last 100 years. Okay, so what do you do when there's uncertainty? Well, the reality is that when there is uncertainty, the people who've got the most certainty will lead the way. Okay, it's the 5th secret that's in the Pillars of Transformation. So if you haven't read that, read the last chapter of the book. Actually, read the whole book. That's the last chapter. Certainty. It's only a couple of pages long, that last chapter. Certainty is the key. The person who acts with the most certainty is the person that people follow. So globally, all the world governments have to act with decisiveness and certainty. And we've seen this through Black Lives Matter. We've seen this through the Trump administration, law and order. We've seen this through decisions that government are making all over the world, knowing that nobody's a fucking clue what's going on. Nobody really knows what's going on. But if people, governments especially, act with certainty, that gives a lot of the population a certain sense of security and sense of control, that somebody is actually driving the ship, right? And that's what we need. So for example, here's a classic thing, okay? And I don't know what your opinion is on the mask issue at the moment. I'll give you my opinion, okay? My opinion on the mask issue is very, very simple, okay? The issue is this: masks don't work unless you actually have COVID, right? So here's the thing. Let's say that if you have COVID, it would make sense that you put a mask on, because you don't want to spread the disease to anybody else, right? But here's the thing. Think of it from a control perspective, from a government perspective. If nobody's wearing masks, and then I think I've got COVID and I start coughing, right? If I walk into a pharmacy and buy a mask, I become the black sheep. I become the person who's marked out saying, oh, he's got the disease, and everybody avoids him. So I might not buy a mask because I don't want people to know that I might have the disease. So a certain percentage of the people who could possibly have COVID won't wear masks if they think they might have COVID, because they don't want to be black sheep. They don't want to be blacklisted. So the only thing that makes sense from a government perspective is to say that everybody should wear masks, which means that people who might have COVID then can wear masks to help protect themselves. Okay, that's a control decision. That's saying that's the only reasonable thing we can do if we want to help stop spreading it through masks. Now, whether you believe masks work and masks don't work, it makes more sense from a government position to say, hey, everybody needs to wear masks, because then the most likely people that could be impacted by it would probably wear masks. Okay, so that's a good thing, even though it doesn't, fundamentally, it doesn't stop the spread. If you look at the statistics in America, just look at what's happening, the pandemic's gotten worse, and we've had lockdown in America and we've had masks in America. So it's not helping. What needs to happen is we need to get over this wave and get to the next level. So there's a lot of things going on in the world that doesn't make sense, because it's not about doing the right thing. It's about giving people certainty about actions. And unfortunately, a lot of governments have to create certainty around we're doing the right thing. And if they keep flip-flopping and changing the direction, it doesn't make any sense. So that's my view on the whole thing. So what we need is we need to act with certainty as coaches as well, right? Which unfortunately also means listening to what everybody says. And while we might want to just kind of go with the bit and say, oh, they're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. We have to kind of hold back and say, okay, let's hear the person's point of view and try to understand where they're at as opposed to where we're at, right? And even though we might be right or we might be wrong, what we're doing in the world today is we're actually creating polarization. We've been so polarized, and this is especially important, this is especially prominent in social media. I'm actually off Facebook at the moment. I'm not actually engaging with Facebook at all, apart from checking messages about once a week from people. And the reason I'm doing that is because people have got so polarized on social media. They think that everybody who agrees with their point of view is the only point of view in the world. And Facebook's algorithm will show you messages and posts from only people who agree with your point of view, right? And people who are on the opposite point of view, you'll only see messages from those people. And it's further exaggerated by the fact that you can block people who don't agree with you. So people have a tool to not see messages they don't agree with. And Facebook algorithm also says, show people more stuff like the stuff you're already seeing. So now what's happening is, for every argument, there's two sides, and everybody is actually only seeing one side of the story, right? So Facebook and social media in general can get very toxic if you're getting into online debates. Twitter, a lot of places where you've got arguments being played out in social media become toxic because you're only really getting one side of the argument. I mean, have you ever seen a Twitter argument or a Facebook argument where somebody's changed their mind as a result of someone's response? It doesn't happen. What people dig in further. And because of something that is hugely important in coaching, because of something called cognitive bias, you will only see the things you want to see when somebody gives an argument. If you want to see a great example of this, look at the flat worlders. So people talk about like the world is flat, and one of the main characters, the main sort of leader of that sort of movement, talks about flat world theory. And there was a particular journalist, I think it's from the BBC, who showed a particular physics experiment of a boat going over the horizon, and you can see the boat going over the horizon, and the sails going down, 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 down. And you can see, it demonstrates that the water is curved because you don't fall off the edge, you just go down deeper, deeper. So it shows curve of the earth. And they asked the guy what he thought about it. He says, oh no, it's the sun. The sun is changing. So no matter what argument you do, you'll always have a different way of saying that doesn't work because of this, right? And physics goes out the window. Science goes out the window in this scenario. So in these moments, there's kind of two different groups. There's one group which is about science and logic, and there's another group which is about emotional reaction to what's going on, right? And what's really important nowadays is for us to see both sides. Understand the numbers, the logical mind, but also understand the intuitive emotional response we get from this without necessarily reacting, but by absorbing the intuitive feel of what's going on. Does this feel right? Does this feel wrong? But also looking at the numbers together. In other words, it's about trying to find that balance, right? And if we can find that balance, that gives us the choice to be able to make better decisions, not just for ourselves, but for our students as well.